The Vancouver Canucks, the Dallas Stars, and the Boston Bruins have all wrapped up their series and have all advanced to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Today, we preview and predict every single conference semifinal series and also take a look back at the eliminated teams and what went wrong for them in round one. Right, the Maple Leafs are the team. This team gets talked about year after year after year, do the same thing year after year after year, which is fail.
Officially into round 2 of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Before we get into that, let's recap the game 7s that happened. Of course, you could just tell by our hoodie and our shirts. We got to recap game 6 of the Canucks and Predators series. But yeah, let's get right into it with the biggest series that lived up to the hype. The Dallas Stars beating the Vegas Golden Knights in game 7, 2-1 at home, to clinch it out to move on to the next round to face the Colorado Avalanche.
There will be a new Stanley Cup champion, and that's because the Dallas Stars got their revenge off of last year's 4-2 defeat to the Vegas Golden Knights in the Western Conference Finals. And this time, a much better Dallas Stars team, on paper, much better Vegas team as well. And Dallas Stars get the job done after being down 0-2, losing both games at home. People thinking they're getting swept, but winning two of the 3 games in Vegas, and also the last 2 remaining home games. And let's just start off with Wyatt Johnston. Wyatt Johnston's 4th goal in the playoffs, and he scored the crucial the first goal in the game 7 to give Dallas a 1-0 lead, obviously answered by Brett Howden. But Radek Fasa's absolute insane backhand for the game winner. And just overall, this Dallas performance has been incredible fight. DeBoer goes to 8-0 record, tied for the most wins by a coach in Game 7 history, and is also undefeated, which is also the key part.
Yeah, completely forgot about that.
And yeah, it's just a complete performance by the Dallas Stars, top to bottom. Their depth stepped up, Wyatt Johnston being the main example. Robertson got his goal. But my biggest story from last year to this year, the takeaway is Jake Onger and how he performed in this series and compared to the last series they did in the last year's Western Conference Finals.
My question to you is this. What's more likely to happen? If Pete DeBoer coaches the Maple Leafs, is he going to lose a game, or are the Maple Leafs going to win the game? Game 7 to be exact.
DeBoer's going to lose.
Okay, so
DeBoer's going to lose.
Okay, so you have the Harry Kane curse type thing where Kingsley Coleman won the league title every year. Harry Kane's non-trophy took the power there. So you're essentially saying that.
But yeah, let's just quickly revisit of these games. Very tight game, every single one. Even when Dallas was down 0-2, it was tight losses, right? Like 2-1, 3-1. And again, the shots were very tight. Both teams were hitting 20-plus shots a game. Both teams were within each other. Apart from game 3, I think, where Dallas really had a stranglehold on the shots. Otherwise, that just shows you how even the games were. And very tight team, very tough teams going at it. A heavyweight matchup, like we said, lived up to every bit of it. And just Dallas got away with it. And their MVP has to be Wyatt Johnston, like I said
easily.
before.
Vegas, they're officially on LTIR, I guess.
They are on LTIR.
But no, jokes aside, though, Mark Stone said that if he's playing, no excuses. But at the end of the day, not a surprise. Obviously, a little bit of a hangover because the season was up and down for them as well. They obviously made big-time signings. Yes, people are going to joke around about the LTIR stuff, and they're happy that he's out. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm happy, too, in that sense, just to see. But then again, they missed the playoffs a couple of years ago because of this LTIR stuff. This year, they almost missed out. But at the end of the day, we saw what happened last year. Next year, they'll just get even healthier as the offseason goes on. And they'll be back to where they are. The big question mark for them in the offseason is because of all these contracts, what's going to happen with Jonathan Marchessault and Chandler Stevenson? Are they going to be able to find a way to finesse them into the cap again? Or are they going to convince them to take a pay cut? Or are they going to somehow finesse a LTIR move? Or just, do what they did last year and trade Riley Smith away type of move? Like they did to last year when they traded him to Pittsburgh, and just do another one like that and bring at least Marchessault back. But Chandler Stevenson is an underrated piece for them.
I personally think Chandler Stevenson is probably going to be more likely to come back. 1, I feel like he'll be a little bit cheaper. 2, I'm pretty sure he's a lot younger than Marchessault. I don't know about a lot younger, but I know he's definitely younger because Marchessault is around 33 already. And The question mark for me, like obviously before we go in, like all season talk, the Vegas Golden Knights are stacked. There's no real off season outlook here. They're gonna be back next year. They're gonna be competing and contending again in the division and in playoffs and for the Stanley Cup. But the question I bring up here is, was the Aiden Hill move necessary to go to? I'm not saying Aiden Hill necessary or goaltending cost him the series, because it definitely did not, in my opinion. Obviously, there were just little things that they couldn't get done, aka turnovers, which led to a few goals in Game 5 and in one goal in Game 5, and then we'll have another goal in Game 7. But Logan Thompson was cooking, and how does this just going to Aiden Hill randomly, who, yeah, he had a over 900 save percentage in the games, but ultimately ended up with a 1-2 record, whereas Logan Thompson got you 2 wins.
I thought he was injured at first. He wasn't, clearly. They went with Aiden Hill because of the experience of what he lived up to last year, throughout, especially with the Edmonton series and all that. I disagreed with it. I think Logan Thompson was dealing, right? That Game 3 especially. And I thought they should have kept it, right? Okay, maybe if he lost Game 4 and 5, okay, then I see the switch. But I think the switch was a little too early. That being said, I don't think Aiden Hill is the reason why they lost the series anyway. So it's not like I'm blaming goaltending here. So at the end of the day, I guess it's fine because that's not the reason why they lost. But I feel like the continuity factor with Logan Thompson should have been just a factor to continue on. That's just my opinion. But again, it wasn't the factor of why they lost.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out, I think it's kind of hard to really fault anyone in this situation, right? Even on both sides, right? We knew Dallas had another gear when they were down 0-2, and they went to that another gear,
Yeah.
right? And we know what Vegas is,
Yeah.
right? They've shown that in this series that they are still a great team. I feel like this situation is just not necessarily one team played bad or had off days. Like every game was competitive, every game was close. It was just necessarily two absolutely amazing teams, two heavyweights going after it, and it just sucks that one of them has to lose. Type of situation here. I can't really fault anyone. I can't really pick one thing that Vegas did bad, that really cost them the series. Right? There probably a few little things here and there. Don't get me wrong, but overall, all players, did perform at the end of the day. Goaltending was there. Defensively, they were there. Right? And same with Dallas. Goaltending was there in Onger. Defensively, they were there, especially with adding Tanev at the deadline. And forwards, you got, yes, Wyatt Johnson was your best forward, but, you got some scoring from up and down the lineup, right? Who would have thought Radek Faska was going to be the game winner in Game 7?
What won them Dallas series was Chris Tanev. Because I think he was 5-0 when he was on the ice himself. The defensive stability, all that. So
you mean +5 rating? 5-0?
Yeah, I think 5 goals to none. I think.
So he was +5 in the series.
Essentially. That's what I heard at least. But yeah, so that trade pretty much helped them win because the defensive stability was there. That was more of their need to round out their roster. So ultimately, we'll talk about Dallas a little bit more. Vegas, I don't think there's much to say. I agree with you. At least for the games that I've watched, because again, reminder to everybody, we are juggling NBA and NHL playoffs, so that's 16 games. And then obviously I missed the Eastern Standard Time ones. But with that being said, yeah, it was a fun series. I expected this to happen just because Vegas, I understand, went into the playoffs kind of cold or up and down. We know they were going to step up. We knew Mark Stone was going to be back. We knew Pietrangelo was going to be back. They came back. They did their thing. It is what it is. Like we said, we think Dallas is the more complete team, and that's why we picked them. And we did pick them in 7, and exactly that's what happened. It may have not been the way we thought it was going to be, them being 0-2 down at home. But, yeah, like I said, Vegas, they just got to help rest up, figure out their contract situations, and they'll be back next year. Nothing much to say there.
Yeah, so before we move on, please smash a like button and smash a subscribe button. We are grinding out some playoff content for you, trying to cover up as many games as we possibly can. And as predictions, all that stuff, check out the shorts as well. Check out our Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And also check out our NBA pod that we dropped late, where we predicted round 2 matchups. And so obviously round 2 is already underway in NBA. Game 2 of Minnesota and Denver is on in the background, so check that out too. And help us out there.
So,
and road to 1,000.
Yeah, road to 1,000 for sure. Let's continue with the other Game 7. And again, it's a story we have seen many, many, many times. The Toronto Maple Leafs lost Game 7 to the Boston Bruins 2-1 to overtime. So another one of those games that was 0-0 heading into the third period. The Game 6 of Vegas and Dallas was the same thing. The Game 6 of the Canucks and Nashville Predators was also the same thing. So, the series was tight. Austin Matthews ended up coming back. Obviously, it wasn't a big factor in there. The big surprise was when we saw, you guys saw a reaction in the last pod, obviously, but we're going to emphasize on it now. Joseph Woll wasn't in net, and it was because of injury, not by choice. So there's that. It's not like Samsonov cost him the game. I know people are going to talk about that overtime goal, which we'll get to in a second.
Samsonov had 31 saves.
Yeah. But ultimately, what ended up happening was Toronto took the lead, and their defensive collapse happened on both goals in the overtime. And the tying goal as well by Hampus Lindholm.
Yeah, score has a mistake here because it says Samsonov has 31 saves on 32 shots, but he allowed 2 goals. So I think he probably had 30 saves in that sense.
Unless the shot went like post in or something, I don't remember. But
yeah, maybe, who knows. But yeah, overall he performed well in Game 7. Yes, was he amazing? No, but he gave him something to work with.
Listen,
right?
it was 1-1 at the end of the day. So
no, I'm talking about like overall in the series, right?
Yeah,
Even when he like played like Game 1, like what was he supposed to do realistically, right? Like he was left out to dry. Obviously, Game 4 wasn't great for the Leafs either. But like Samsonov, yes, he wasn't amazing. He wasn't gonna steal a win, but he gave you Stuart Skinner type minutes, like how Stuart Skinner did in like Game 1, not like Game 4 Stuart Skinner where he stole the game.
Yeah.
Like like how Game 1, not Game 3 Stuart Skinner was. Obviously Edmonton was dominating. Stuart Skinner didn't have to do much, but Samsonov kept you afloat, right? So goaltending wasn't an issue. Was Joseph Woll better? Yes. Was Joseph Woll the answer? 100%. But this series is definitely not on Samsonov.
So here's the thing. I mentioned that Game 7, a little bit of a defensive lapses, or especially that overtime when you look back at it, was brutal. The series obviously changed when William Nylander came in. But the problem isn't... Like, listen, the problem was the defense and a slight goaltending. But like you said, it wasn't all on goaltending. But mainly, the biggest worry was goaltending and defense. But that wasn't the reason why they ultimately lost this series. In their last 14 playoff games, they've hit more than 3 goals or more once, right? Outside of that, all of the goals have been 1 goal or 2 goals. They were the second highest, offense after the Colorado Avalanche this year. So once again, I understand William Nylander missed the first 3 games, fine. And then Austin Matthews missed a couple of games because he said he was severely sick. Mitch Marner was a no-show. We'll talk about the Leafs, what they're going to do on the offseason, because it is a topic, because some Leafs fans probably are like, it's better if we should have just got swept or lost in 5. But we'll talk about that in a second. But ultimately, their offense let them down, right? We're talking about the Canucks and the Predators. The Canucks offense, if they were to lose that series, the offense would have let them down, but their defense actually carried and their goaltending carried. And this side, as much as I don't blame I blame the offense more, their defense and goaltending was not capable and is not good enough like the Canucks was to help them carry.
And they should have known better. That's not their identity.
Yeah.
Right? Canucks built in a little bit of identity, especially in the second half of the season.
Yeah.
That, they're going to hold it down defensively. They're going to hold it down through Demko, the Smith, and now Sealaws as well, right? That's how the Canucks play. They could play like that.
Yeah.
The Leafs can't play like that.
No.
Right? Joseph Woll is the answer. Joseph Woll is that guy. If Joseph Woll played Game 7, I think the Maple Leafs would have won, because him and Nylander are only 2 difference makers on that squad. Austin Matthews was not a difference maker. Isn't a difference. Like, he hasn't proven to me anything that he's a difference maker in general.
Playoffs, to be
yes,
honest.
he could have a 70-goal season, all that stuff. But he's not a difference maker. Mitch Marner is not a difference maker. John Tavares is not a difference maker. The only people that show up or had shown up in this series was William Nylander and Joseph Woll. Joseph Woll was 2-0, and I believe Nylander got them 2. Was he 2-2?
I think he lost Game 4.
So Nylander was 2-2, right? Without Matthews playing 2 games, you won both of those games. What does that say about Matthews?
Lost one, I think.
Game 4? No, he left in Game 4. So he missed Game 5 and Game 6. He left in Game 4.
Yeah.
So what does that say about Matthews? Right? You won the 2 games without him. What does that say about Marner? Right?
We'll talk about Marner in a second.
When Nylander comes in, he's the one doing all this stuff after having severe headaches while you've been healthy and you couldn't do anything. Same thing with Tavares. Right? It just... It's just a little bit of a
Move the mic back. Move the mic back a bit. I'm looking at the spikes right now.
Am I being loud? Am I being? I don't know. Should I be happy? Should I be pissed off? I don't know what to feel, but I'm being the non-biased guy right here, and I'm pretty pissed off in that sense.
Yeah, no, listen. Austin Matthews did not have a bad series, bad playoffs last year. I'm just going to make that clear, especially in the first round. He was pretty good. So, yeah, maybe the sickness got the best of him. I'll give him a very slight benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I'm not saying get rid of Matthews.
No. They're not. First of all, they're
Yeah.
not. Because he's the reason why they're even in this spot in the first place, right? Like you said, he wasn't a difference maker in this
series,
playoffs,
more specifically.
right? Mitch Marner is the biggest question mark here. So the question now is what are the Leafs going to do? I hear fans saying or seeing on Twitter, like I said earlier, I alluded to that, like, oh, why couldn't we just lose in 4 or 5 so we know what we need to do? Now they're like, William Nylander has somehow, there's nothing wrong with the core 4. If we were just healthy, we could have won this series. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, that's fine. But the problem is this isn't the first year or even the second year. This has been going on for year after year after year, choking against the Montreal Canadiens, not making it out of the qualifying round in the bubble. Obviously, the Boston series in general, Tampa the last couple of years, I think they lost once to Washington, and I think that year they won it all. Washington won it all. So, listen, Keefe's got to go. I think he's slightly scapegoated at the same time. He can't get the job done, right? Keefe's got to go. That's number one. You already got, obviously, last year you got rid of Dubas. You bring in Trey Living. Trey Living did okay. I think he did a pretty decent job.
He just let it run, right?
Yeah.
He
didn't do too much.
I feel like he just
he added like Bertuzzi and Domi. Big mistake was Ryan Reeves for sure. But even put him in the guy from Klingberg, right? But he ended up being an LTIR, so it was a non-factor. Anyways, I think TJ Brody hit LTIR as well. So listen, I think Trey Living will be fine. But the thing is, Brandon Shanahan in 8 years of in charge. Before I get to the players, made it out of the first round once. And that was last year's first round, right? And then they got destroyed by Florida. So I think his job security is in question as well. Maybe give Trey Living the keys to the table and see what he does, right? So those, like, for sure, Keefe is going to be gone. And the name right out that comes out of the top of my head is Craig Berube. Makes a lot of sense there, right? So there's that. Depending on what they do with Shanahan and if Trey Living's going to be in charge, the problem they have with trading players now is, like I said, there's no way you're trading William Nylander after this series. You can't.
Nylander's team, right?
You already paid Matthews, and again, Matthews was 69
team,
goal regular season and 70 if you include the playoffs. He's still going to be your MVP difference maker.
It's Nylander and Matthews' team. That's
so the problem here is this. It's Mitch Marner. The issue with Mitch Marner is he has a full no-move clause. 1 year left on his contract. He's being paid like a superstar. Is not a superstar. We have Elias Pettersson is his first year. We'll see what happens in the next round. Similar vibe-ish there, but this guy's been doing it a lot more worse. I forget what John Tavares' contract is. I'll look that up in a second. But the question is Mitch Marner. Now, I've seen debates like, trade him. Easier said than done. The Leafs' fault for giving him a no-move clause, full no-move clause. So, I don't blame Marner because that's his hometown team. Maybe he wants out just to be a fresh. That's for him to say. He said in his exit interview that he wants to be a Leaf long term, which I don't blame him either because, again, personal preference. Here's the thing. Yes, he's gonna get booed on for not taking away his no move clause. He's gonna be the villain within the hometown. But you can't blame the guy for exercising the right that you gave him in his contract to do that as well. So unless you could convince him to and then even when you do trade him, I think you have to try to trade him just for a fresh start, right? But even if you do trade him, it's not like you're expecting value out of it, out of the deal.
Well, you'll get something in return. It's not going to be
No, but it depends. It could be like that Patrick Kane thing. It's like, okay, well, I only want here. I want this spot only, right? Like, what if he says that? Like, what if he wants to go to Pittsburgh and I want this spot only?
They don't move him.
That's my point, right? Like, you're not going to get value out of it, but maybe you trade him just for the sake of getting a fresh start as well.
Yeah, who knows? I think something will come back. It may not be like enough. Don't get me wrong. I will say that much, but you will get something in return that's, something to work with. It might not be like you might not get an all-star. You might not get something, but you'll get something to work with. That's what I'm going to say. You might get like a few dead pieces here and there. But it's as simple as this. If the Leafs go back with the same roster, same squad, same thing, they're just insane. If they've been insane, it's just absolutely insanity.
I'm going to give you a perfect example.
And, the fact that you lost every single year in the first round except for one, and 1 year technically you didn't make it because of the qualifying round, it's just, they're the Dallas Cowboys and they just can't get the job done.
I'm giving you a perfect example. It's actually your squad right here, the Toronto Raptors. Year after year, they make the playoffs. Year after year, they would get bounced out first, second round one time in the conference finals. The year the 3-1 LeBron comeback happened. You had the coach of the year, and you fired him. You traded away the biggest star Toronto has ever had in DeMar DeRozan, and you added a superstar player in Kawhi Leonard. Yes, the finals, we know how it went, but at the end of the day, you play who you play, and ended up winning a championship. So this is a perfect comp. They're a similar team that kept doing what they're doing, right? The Blue Jays are going to be the same thing probably as well going forward. But like the Maple Leafs, like I said, 8 years, 7 times not out of the first round. You got to make changes. You can't be like, oh yeah, we can get this done this year.
There's a difference, right?
Contract statuses are also
there's a difference here. These guys with a Toronto comp, Toronto was competitive. Toronto did win rounds, right? Obviously, they ran into one guy, LeBron, who beat them in all 3 rounds.
Yeah.
But you know, the Toronto Raptors weren't under pressure. The Toronto Raptors aren't the team.
Yet they still made moves though.
Yet they still did it. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Right? The Maple Leafs are the team. This team gets talked about year after year after year and do the same thing year after year after year, which is fail. As simple as that.
Here's the thing. Last thing before we get off the conversation. Both Tavares and Marner have 1 year left in the contract. Both have full no-move clauses. But if they were to manage to trade one of them, I don't know what the buyout's going to look like for Tavares because that one makes more sense.
I mean, if they have 1 year, I'm down.
You could potentially open up $21 million. Which means you could go out and pay a guy like Zadorov and Tanev in free agency, right, to add the defensive depth. Maybe go out and get a goalie or trade for a better goalie as well. Because you have, like I said, maybe you need to add still a little bit more offense. Don't get me wrong. So like a guy,
especially if you lose Marner,
like a guy like Tyler Toffoli, might as well keep his.
If you lose Marner and Tavares, you're gonna have to add offense.
But like what I'm saying is like then you go out got a guy like Tyler Toffoli, might as well keep a continuous Canadian tour, right? So. Like they have a chance to open up cap space here, right? We don't know what TJ Brody's situation. I don't know what his contract is. He'll be either off the books or on LTIR. Who knows? So you have money to play with. So it's not like they are cap struck, but if done right, they have opened up cap space and they could fix the team's needs wherever that may be. Defensively, adding maybe a couple more depth pieces.
It's a tough job for Treliving, but he has to do something, right? If I'm in the off season and I see Treliving doing absolutely nothing.
Well, so
I would fire him right there, bro.
Are you assuming Shanahan's gone?
Huh?
Because if Shanahan's still there, you can't blame Treliving because at the end of the day, it goes through Shanahan.
Yeah, I mean, it's up to ownership, right?
So if you're ownership, you'd fire Shanahan.
Yeah.
Because
I
gave you the stat, 8 years,
what has he done?
Not out of the first round.
Or if he's the one in control.
He is. That's why Dubas wanted to leave.
Yeah, well. So get rid of his control if you're not going to fire him and give it to Treliving.
And then see what he does.
Be like, Treliving is the one with the keys,
Yeah.
Do that instead if Shanahan's the one doing all these moves because, it's failed. And if the ownership doesn't want to do that, then they're going to be another laughing stock like they are year after year after year after being Canada's team, after being the team in the NHL that gets talked about every single year, but produce absolutely nothing, a.k.a. the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, so that's it from the Leafs side of things. The Boston Bruins, we'll talk about it when we talk about the Florida series. So let's move on to this is the last series that we need to talk about?
Yes.
Okay, so it is our Vancouver Canucks, who have more series wins than the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this is the Canucks' second time making the playoffs, including the bubble. Got business done. Finished it in 6 against the Nashville Predators with a grinded out 1-0 win, a great goalie battle, defensive battle game with P. Suter, who's been robbed many times this game, ended up getting the game winner with 99 seconds to go in overtime or in the third period. And after that, we saw a scramble with a bad timing penalty call, which wasn't being called all game by the referees, by Elias Lindholm. After that, Tyler Myers literally put everything on the line.
And his future generations as well.
And ended up closing out the win. So, yeah, overall thoughts on the series?
Overall thoughts on the series. Nashville, Smashville. They live up to that name of Smashville, that is for sure.
They live up to the culture.
They have that culture. Barry Trotz had a culture. He made it clear that what he wants to see, and he should be happy with what he saw. Keys for things that need to pick apart from Nashville. Number one of why they lost the series. It's not fully on the goaltending, but UC Saros definitely could have been better. That is for sure. Games 5 and 6, he was incredible. He was UC Saros. But games 1 through 4, I personally believe that game, UC Soros could have been better. And that is point number one. Point number two, the Vancouver Canucks ultimately were the better team. They were the more talented
Majority
team. And it showed.
5 out of the
Apart from
4 out of the 6 games.
apart from they were the talented team, obviously. But like,
oh no, I'm talking about the better team in the series in general.
yeah, they were the more talented team on paper, and it showed, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, yes, when you're the underdog, right? Sometimes you have to, like how your Lakers always lose to the Nuggets, right? You always think you could have a chance. You always make it close. You always try to find a way to grind it out, but eventually the better team wins. Game 4 being a prime example of that, even though they made mistakes there. Colton Sisson's empty net miss is obviously looking key.
That was the game changer of the series.
It was absolutely game changer because they could have been going into Nashville with a 3-2 series lead after they won in Game 5. Point number 2 was that apart from the first line of O'Reilly, Nyquist, Forsberg, and apart from Roman Josi, they just don't have much after that, right? Zucker had his moments here and there. But whereas the Canucks, you had Pia Suter step up. You had Lindholm step up. You had Dakota Joshua step up. Connor Garland, JT Miller, and Brock Besser being the main offensive threat in this series. Your superstar or your highest paid player is now looking like an X factor in the next series, which we'll talk about later. Quinn Hughes did his job, right?
And this wasn't even Quinn Hughes' best series. He still had 5 assists.
Yeah.
He got hit
And
like
then
20 times, which is like more than double or triple his average of getting hit in the regular season.
And then Zadorov stepped up, right? Ian Cole made plays, right? Philip
Unsung
Hronek the
hero.
thing.
Yeah.
And then your goaltending stepped up.
Because
right?
3 goalies.
Demko stepped up. Obviously, Demko did his job in Game 1. Then DeSmith did that incredible Game 3 performance. And then you have Seelows. Obviously, we know the story of Seelows by now. Top to bottom, they just were a more talented roster than Nashville Predators. And as much as, Nashville Predators did frustrate the Canucks, that talent found a way to get the job done.
Yeah.
And that's what ultimately won the Canucks the series. And also, UC Soros not being able to steal games, which, we kind of
He almost stole game.
He almost stole Game 6.
And he kind of stole game 5.
Kind of stole Game 5. But ultimately, he wasn't the best goalie in the series. And especially when Demko went down, you thought it was clear that Soros was the best goalie in the series. And that let him down too.
A credit to Nashville before I continue. Turn on the fan in case the camera dies down.
Yeah.
Batteries, just quickly turn it on while I talk. Nashville, just give them credit. I'm going to give them credit, right? No one thought they were going to be a playoff team. Everybody was questioning Barry Trotz bringing in Ryan O'Reilly and Luke Shen, giving them the contracts they did. Clearly showed that maybe the length of the contract might be a question mark, but the value was there, right? And then on top of that, on the offseason, they have trade pieces, whether it be Soros or whether it be their goalie, their young goalie who's in the AHL. They could get value out of it. And on top of that, listen, Andrew Brunette had a great game plan. After Game 1, he realized that, okay, we need to go hard at Quinn Hughes. He did that. Quinn Hughes looked hurt, right? You saw it in that Game 4 where until he had to make that move. And that's what superstars do, right? Quinn Hughes made a superstar play there to set up to get Brock Besser his goal. That he started that play, right? But yeah, no, shout out to Nashville. I think, they keep it this way. They just need to add some talent one way or another. And talent that fits their culture, right? It can't be like a Pierre-Luc Dubois. I don't know.
Yeah, it's got to be
someone that fits their culture. Because look at LA right now, they're kind of struggling with what they're trying to do.
Find another Forsberg in the sense of the guy that's gonna give effort both ways. Find a younger O'Reilly.
Maybe someone in your farm system
could be someone.
I think they drafted Matthew Wood, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, no, for them.
No, credit to Nashville. Absolutely incredible year. Nobody expected this to ever be a playoff series, Canucks versus Nashville, and yeah, credit to both teams, but Vancouver Canucks are the ones that get the job done and move on to the second round, where it has already begun. 2 Game 1s have already been played at the time of recording, and another 2 will be out today, right? No, or 1, was it? Another 1, because Canucks play on Wednesday.
Yeah, so let's talk about, I think...
actually, another 2, technically Rangers Game 2, yeah.
So let's talk about the Canucks series against the Edmonton Oilers. First
First
of all, shout out Scott Road. We were there. It
was packed.
It was packed. It was bumping. So it was fun to be around. Obviously, not a fan of some of the stuff that was being said, especially by some young kids. I'm not gonna get into that, but yeah. So obviously, it shows when the home team wins. Now it's so fun being as a fan being part of it. Obviously, we're still gonna make unbiased predictions here whenever we come down to it, whether how much you believe it or not. But yeah, let's get to it. Edmonton Oilers are officially waiting for the winner of this series. We got it. It was the Vancouver Canucks. And game starts Wednesday, like you said. It's every other day. So overall thoughts, here's the thing, right? Edmonton saw what Nashville's game plan was. But the problem is Edmonton cannot use that as their own game plan. Yes, certain lines, probably Evander Kane, who's going to be their big forechecker, can do what Nashville did to Quinn Hughes, right? The difference is I don't think Edmonton is going to be the team that's going to block 30 shots, 20 to 30 shots, because that's not their identity. They have the higher talent. They have the two best players, clearly the best player in the world in Connor McDavid and a top 5 player in Leon Draisaitl. And they have a 50-goal scorer in Zach Hyman as well. And so they're going to obviously open it up a little bit more for the Canucks, which is a good, probably in a way good for the Canucks. So this is a chance for Elias Pettersson and the Canucks to they're going to play with their identity. They should not get away from their identity, not go to Nashville level, but play defensive, but break out when they need to and capitalize on the mistakes that Bouchard and Nurse are able, that usually sometimes they create. Test out Stuart Skinner, see what he's going to be like, and take the chances.
Yeah, here's the thing, right? Nashville's forecheck wasn't, really executed, right? Because, yes, they were on Quinn Hughes, but Quinn Hughes was able to still break out.
Because he's Quinn Hughes.
Other defensemen were able to break out the zone. Hronek did his job in the sense of, zone exits. The way Nashville was, cooking the Canucks was in the neutral zone and was on their own breakouts as well, because Nashville's a good rush team and that's what they do, and they got their rushes. There are many 3-on-2s we saw, many 2-on-1s we saw from Nashville, right? And in that sense, is Edmonton's forecheck going to do the same thing? I don't think so. The best way to defend Edmonton is to keep the puck,
not to do a 1-3-1.
It's to keep the puck. Yeah, it's just that. Like Talk said best in his interview, right? You got to make smart decisions. You got to know what you got to do with the puck before you get the puck, type of thing. And, get the shots on net, because, shots off net, hit the bouncing boards. McDavid turns around with his speed the other way. McDavid is most dangerous when he reaches the top speed. We all know that, right? And the way they do that is he accelerates through the neutral zone, meaning that he's top speed in the Canucks' zone, right? In the O zone. So, for Canucks' forecheck has to be established well. It has to be much better than it was against Nashville. And it was pretty decent against Nashville. They created goals off of that. They created many chances off that. But you can't let McDavid pick up speed, right? If you want to make him start as far away as possible from your net, if he does have the puck. But offensively, you got to puck possessions be key, right? You
can't turn over against this team.
You can't turn over against this team. You got to make smart decisions. And that comes with discipline as well.
And shots on goal.
And
especially in this series.
Shots have to be on goal. You can't, it's better to keep passing the puck instead of, if you have a shooting opportunity and you're not going to get it on net, don't shoot the puck, right? Last series it could have worked. This series is not going to work, right? You have to get the shots on net. Test Stuart Skinner. He's a weaker goalie than UC Soros. Has he been performing well? Yes. But he has to be tested because he doesn't have the reputation yet. And then last point is, yes, your penalty kill has been good.
Okay, that's what I was.
It's been very good. Don't get me wrong. But you took a lot of penalties, right? Yes, some of it is ref's fault, some of it is your fault, and you can't afford to do that against a team that was, I believe, 45% in round one.
Give him credit though, because Nashville coming into the series was one of the top power plays heading into the series. I'm not saying overall in the league. So they did. Everybody thought that that's how Nashville could punish Vancouver. Right, outside of the 2 goals, one of them being a fluky goal, one of them being a legit goal in game 1 that Ryan O'Reilly scored. Canucks held their own, held well. Not even held their own; they exceeded the hell out of it. Right,
that 89%.
On the flip side, though, other part of special teams, Edmonton's PK has been pretty decent. Their power play needs to be better as well. Whenever the opportunity comes, we know. Listen,
power play needs to be better, bro. It was pretty historic, no?
Huh?
Was it not amazing?
Whose?
Edmonton.
No, I'm talking about Canucks' power play needs to be better.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay,
I said Edmonton's PK has also been decent.
Yeah.
The Canucks need to figure out their power play because, listen, McDavid's going to get his opportunities. I'm not going to say he flops, but I'm saying because of that speed and skill, he falls down. It's going to look like a trip, whether it is or not. A lot of the times he does get tripped or he gets hooked or he gets slashed. So he's going to get his calls. So you guys obviously got to figure that out as well. You got to be smart. Obviously, There's a debate between DeSmith and Sheelovs only because of what DeSmith did in the regular season against the Oilers, and then Sheelovs in the postseason. I still would go a ride with him, but the good luxury you have is if he had a horrible game one, you could switch the goalie.
You have the luxury to switch
right when you need to. So overall, like the keys for the Canucks to win are simple. Do not turn over the puck. Do not commit too many penalties. Convert whatever chances you get. Put shots on goal because the game's going to open up more. You're not going to run and gun against this team. That's for sure. However, you're going to have more spaces and stuff to break out. And listen, the Elias Lindholm line is probably going to be matched up with Draisaitl. We saw how Lindholm shut down Draisaitl in the last game of the year. Yes, there was no McDavid, but my point is Miller's line is going to end up being on McDavid. And JT Miller has been like a stud in their MVP in the playoffs as well. You could say collective goaltending if you want, but if you
it's goaltending right now.
But I'm saying if you pick one person specifically, it is JT Miller, and how P.S. Suter's finishing aside has a pretty underrated series himself. So that's going to be the key. Those are probably going to be the matchups. You have the home ice advantage. You have been 1-2 at home against Nashville, so you guys got to fix that up. You guys had a good home regular season record as well. So
it's simple. Don't take penalties. And have the more time on attack.
And Elias Pettersson step up.
It's crazy to think that, when you're looking at X factors, Elias Pettersson is the X factor, right? From what we've seen in round one.
Yeah.
Right? Good news is it's a refresh, right?
And he's been better.
Just because Brock Besser's been so good in round one doesn't mean he's be so good in round two.
Yeah.
And it could be the opposite. Petey was so bad in round one, but he could cook in round two. He should get more space. He shouldn't be matched up with McDavid and Draisaitl much either, because like you said, that's Miller's.
It's gonna be. I forget
that's Miller's and Lindholm's.
Zach McLeod line or someone else.
So that's probably.
That's the line.
That's probably the best child.
Yeah. So, with that being said, like one thing I do want to say is, yes, Canucks are the underdogs in this series, but they should not be underestimated. Obviously, I think ESPN, out of 24 groups or 24 people, only one picked the Canucks to win the series, which is, I agree, they're underdogs. People that are saying, why are Canucks fans saying they're underdogs? We are. At the end of the day, the Oilers were the best team since the coaching change, arguably. Obviously, the first round showed that. So with that being said, though, Canucks fans should not be thinking we're, like, cooked, right? Like, I'm seeing, the Canucks are cooked, no Demko, blah, blah, blah. It's still going to be a tough series for either way. This is going to be a long series, in my opinion, as well. But, like I said, if the Canucks play like they did offensively in round one, then I could see it being a short series. It could be a sweep even. So with that being said, just heads up, Canucks fans, it's not as bad as you think it is going to be, right? Like, you got to have faith in this team. Yes, Winnipeg Jets showed you the regular season does not mean shit when it comes to the playoffs. So just because we swept the Edmonton Oilers doesn't mean that it's going to carry over. So, but have faith in that. At the end of the day, Talking makes adjustments. The one thing the Canucks held their head high on was, when there was adversity, they fixed it pretty quick. They faced a little bit of adversity in Nashville. They kind of fixed it in the game 4. Yes, there's no other time to correct adversity, so you gotta figure that out. So, with that being said, let's get into our predictions.
If it's a short series, it's definitely Edmonton.
Yeah.
But I'm predicting a 7-gamer, and I'm riding with my bracket challenge, and I'm going with the Vancouver Canucks in 7 games, and I'm saying this with a dead face. I'm not even laughing. You might be laughing, right? You smiled.
How much of it was biased?
You're joking. You're joking. It's not bias, bro.
Okay.
I took that bracket challenge seriously.
All right, give your reasoning. Give your reasoning.
I have a perfect bracket so far, so there's no bias right now. Simple as this. We can match up defensively against McDavid and Draisaitl, right? Where the LA Kings were so focused on that 1-3-1, being so defensive, right? And yeah, it worked to some extent, especially, last year as well when they had like Philip Deneau on them. But the best way to defend McDavid and Draisaitl is if they don't have the puck, right? Yes, the Miller line is going to be on McDavid, right? Yes, Miller and McDavid is going to have that matchup.
Or Lindholm. Let's say
one of
those two lines.
But those lines have the capability to produce offense, right? They don't have to be, in their own zone against McDavid every single shift, right? Make McDavid be in his own zone almost every single shift. And I believe they have the capability of having that two-way game, that 200-foot game where, they could contain McDavid in their own D zone, but also put McDavid on shifts where he is contained in his own D zone as well, in his own defensive end. So I believe that those two lines have the capabilities of doing that, and that's how they've been all year, right? Number two, PD should have more space, right? We don't know. Edmonton's been great, don't get me wrong, right? And they might prove me wrong in the sense of that, they might have the natural game plan of how they defended PD, and it could work out the same way. But realistically, when you're looking on paper, PD should have more space than he did in Nashville, right? Hopefully, McCabe could finish the chances, which never really happens. And obviously, Höglander, who was also a very much of a letdown in round one compared to what he produced in the regular season. But it's PD's, it's PD's line to drive. It's PD's got to take that ownership. He's got to be like, yeah, whatever, Höglander's not stepping up, whatever, McCabe's not stepping up, but I need to step up. That's what makes them better. It's PD's job to be that superstar. It's PD's job to be the highest paid player to make his teammates better. And the fact number three, if PD's is on his game, the power play will be cooking.
Yeah.
And for that reason, I am going with the Canucks in 7. I believe all those things can happen. I believe PD steps up. I believe that Miller and Lindholm line can, put McDavid and Draisaitl in their own zone. And when it comes down to it, I think that, at this moment, I think Steelers will have that one more save than Stuart Skinner. Because, yes, Skinner's been incredible, but Steelers is not phased. He's calm for a 23-year-old in his first ever playoffs as a rookie after only having 9 NHL games total.
Yeah, the one thing with you is, with your point about Pettersson is, he can't control McKay's finishing. So that's the only thing with that one. But no, with me, it's a tough one. Like I said, I'm not going to be biased. So I am going with Oilers in 6, right? That doesn't mean I don't have faith in the Canucks, just to make that clear. I know I'm wearing a Canucks city. I'm saying this. People that I know that are watching this are probably going to be like, what the hell's wrong with you? But no, my reasoning is simple. The experience of the last couple of years the Oilers had facing Colorado and facing Vegas, right? And the experience with that. 2, like I said, they have the 2 best players in the world. 3, the power play is insane, right? So that's where it all comes down to it. I think I'm just going to go the experience there. Yes, it's still going to be tough for them. I still think but for the way the Oilers ran out in round 1 and just destroyed the Kings outside of the one game, and I guess the second game Stuart Skinner stole it from him, but we saw the capabilities that he could steal a game, so that scares me a little bit as well as a Canucks fan, that he can do that when need be, especially with how our offense looked in the first round. That's why I'm gonna go with Oilers in 6. Obviously I will be rooting against that pick. I'm kind of like Jack Armstrong when the year you guys won the championship and he picked the Bucks in 6.
I'm just going to say this much. If the Canucks win, right, I'm going to make so much fun of you.
Go for it.
Right?
I got it.
And you're going to...
Listen, we both, right, you gave good reasoning, so I'm not calling you biased for that reason. Yeah. But I'm just saying, like...
Obviously, I really hope the Canucks win. Don't get me wrong.
It's true. And
that's the only time where, like, if you pick against your team, you got to apologize to the camera.
That's fine. Listen, I'm hoping for a good Canadian rivalry matchup because the Oilers-Flames did not live up to it, and that's supposed to be a big rivalry as well.
Like I said, if the series is short, if it's 4 or 5 games, it's the Oilers.
Yeah.
But if it's long, as the underdogs, your job is to, extend the series as much as possible, right? That's how you have an opportunity of winning. That's what Nashville did, right? That's what Florida did, right? And yes, we are underdogs. When you have McDavid and Draisaitl, you are the favorite, and there's no excuse about that. So stop doing this. Oh, why are you thinking you're underdog? It's BS because they've been there, they've done that, and they have 2 of the best players in the game. If they're not favorites, there's something wrong with Edmonton. Yeah. That's all I'm going to say.
The last thing for me is going to say Edmonton is more pressured, right? Because there were many people's cup favorites at the beginning of the year. And I'm not saying the Canucks are not playing with house money. House money is like Washington if they had somehow pulled it off against the Rangers, right? Or whatever the other series might be. So the Canucks, because they were the better regular season team, but they aren't as pressurized as them, right? Many people eyes Canucks won. The season was a success of what they have done so far, based on the expectations. So, yeah, at the end of the day, what will come to Canucks' favor is that Edmonton is a more pressure team. But let's see what their experience will lead them to.
All right, next Western Conference matchup, Dallas Stars versus the Colorado
right? If the Dallas Dallas Stars, pull this off, right? In my prediction, it's Edmonton, right? So they beat them. They go to the final, and my prediction at the beginning of the playoffs was Florida. In recent memory, or in how long, is this be the greatest or one of the greatest Stanley Cup runs, or even finals runs in general from multiple sports?
If Dallas Stars win the Stanley Cup, right, even if they face the Canucks, or even like if they face someone Boston in the final, right, it's gonna be the greatest run I've witnessed as
on the top of your head,
off the top of my head, right, in the sense of beating legit heavyweights, right. Obviously, the other one that comes in my head is St. Louis, just because, of that turnaround season, the comeback story type thing. But this Dallas Stars team has been, is going to be put to the test, right? And if you're gonna face them one time, right, at one point or another, right? If I believe Vegas would have been in the conference finals if they were on the other side of the bracket or other side of the conference type of thing, right?
We essentially got the conference finals in the first round in some.
Essentially, yeah. And they're gonna have to go through it against the Colorado Avalanche, who made the Winnipeg Jets look like the most depressing defensive team of all time, and making look the Vezina winner looking like he has never played a single minute in goal in the NHL. Essentially.
Yeah, also made that defense was one of the best defenses in the league. That kind of caused Connor Hellebuyck to be bad as well. But
they've allowed 199 goals in 82 games. And in just 5 games, they allowed 6 plus, I believe, I don't know how much, but at least 20. Right. So they're already like, I don't know what's that.
It's already over 25 because it was 5 goals a game minimum.
It was 5 goals a game.
So 5
minimum.
games, that's 25 plus maybe extra. Between 25 to 30. Let's just say that.
Yeah, that's pathetic. Right. And credit to Colorado. They shown up. They've credit Gordiev for bouncing back as well. He was being the biggest story. But let's get into the matchup here. Goaltending should be Dallas
easily
at the end of the day.
Easily.
Right? And here's the thing where, there's question marks with Onger in the sense of as the playoffs progress, he seems to be tired, right? We saw that last year, right? With the 60-game regular season. And then obviously as the playoffs went on, he had, a few stinkers. But he is able to bounce back well as well. He's shown in that last year's playoff run. But you can't afford that, right? When you're facing another heavyweight after coming off another grueling series in 7 games.
To be fair, this time he only played 54 games. 53.
It helps.
So that helps with the.
It helps.
The tiredness.
So that's the only question mark of Oettinger. Otherwise, goaltending is 100% Dallas's favorite. Defense, I can't really pick a favorite here.
No, it's even like
when you have McCarr, Taze, you have Gerard, you have Manson. Yeah.
Okay.
You have Gerard, Manson, you have Sean Walker, and I think Jack Johnson. On the other side, you have, Heiskanen, Harley, Tanev, Lindell. I forgot the other 2. I'll be honest with you.
I don't know if he's playing though.
Yeah. If I were to pick one, I would go with Colorado's. But
because of the star power as well. Like, they have the best guy in the league. Essentially, that's why. But Heiskanen's up there. Obviously, Tanev is a big ad. But if I were to pick one, I would favor Dallas's Colorado's defense. And you're looking at forwards and you're looking at depth, right? If I'm saying Nichushkin doing that again, and
Lehkonen doing that again, I don't think they're scoring 7 goals in 5 games, or Nichushkin scoring 7 goals in 5 games. Lehkonen scoring, I believe, 4 or 5 in 5 games.
I think they all scored in each game.
Right. And then on top of that, you're going to have to defend much better star power that, the Winnipeg Jets did not have, right? Scheifele is a good player, don't get me wrong. But Jason Robertson is better, right? Rupe Hintz is better. Why? Johnson is on a tear right now. Stankoven had his moments in the Vegas series as well. And they're overall facing a much better squad. They're facing a much better depth as well. And in Winnipeg, they didn't have that, right? Like, Scheifele had his moments. Connor had his moments. But, like, their depth did not show up, right? Adam Lowry, I could argue, was their best forward. And he's their third-line center. But other than that, Monahan was a no-show. Toffoli was a no-show, right? So I don't think you're not going to get that from Dallas. All 4 lines are going to produce something, right? We saw what happened in Game 7. You had a Wyatt Johnson and a Radka and a Fasek goal, right? A game-winning goal. So it's much difference.
Flip side, you're also dealing with the Hart runner-up with Nathan McKinnon as well. So like Dallas, the good here's what is gonna benefit Dallas in one positive, one negative. The positive is they faced the Vegas Golden Knights, who are equal or maybe in some people's eyes better than overall as a team than the Colorado Avalanche. The negative side is they had a grueling 7-game series where they had to come back from 0-2 down from home as well. So that could hurt them at the end as well.
1 day rest as well, I believe. And yeah, it's going to be tough. Again, another toss-up. But in the beginning of the year, I said Dallas is going to the finals, right? And if you're in that division, you're going to have to go through Colorado. And Jake Andre is going to have to steal him 1 or 2 games, right? Obviously, I do believe that Robertson, Pavelski, and Hintz line has to be a little bit better. But overall, I'm going to bank on Dallas's forward depth compared to Colorado's forward depth. And I'm going with Dallas again in another grueling 7-game series, which reminds me that last year they also went through 2 7-gamers as well in the first 2 rounds against Minnesota and Seattle before they went to the Western Conference Finals.
Minnesota was 7 or 6?
It was 6 then.
I think it was 6.
Whatever, it was still a long series.
Yeah.
So Dallas and 7 for me.
So for me, like I said, Colorado's negative. And again, it could be a positive. For how bad Winnipeg's defense was it Winnipeg's defense or was that caused by Colorado's offense, right? Because like I said, they had the most goals scored in the regular season, and the thing is though, I have more faith in the Dallas defense, right? Adding Chris Tanev was a major game changer as well. Like I said, I could sit here and say like, oh yeah, Winnipeg, Colorado is not facing a better goalie. They're not. They were playing a Vezina favorite, right? The Vezina winner in everybody's eyes, right? Without being announced who the actual winner is. So I can't even sit here and be like, Colorado is going against a superior goalie. No, if not, slightly inferior compared to this season as well. But with that being said, like I said, Dallas I think is still the more complete team. The Gorgiev as a goaltender is still a very big question mark. And like to your point earlier, it was Wyatt Johnson series, and the other guys haven't played to the full potential, right? Jason Robertson had goals and stuff, don't get me wrong, but he could still level up, and we've seen that before. And because of that, people were scared even after game 2 and 3, even that because keep in mind, Colorado was let quick early goals happen on them as well. I think game 5 was one case where they were down early. There were games where they were down 2-1. The difference is the one team's talent is less, which is Winnipeg I'm talking about here, is less, and then their defense just dwindled down. I don't see it happening with Dallas, especially what they went through with Vegas. They know what it takes. They know what it takes to come over adversity, because 0-2 down at home isn't easy. Winning 2 on the road that way. Now, again, you're going to altitude. You're playing the best home team in the league. But because of that Gorgiev factor, and I just think, same thing as you, I'm literally going to repeat what you said now. I picked him at the beginning of the year. I have no reason to get off that bandwagon. And I'm going with Dallas in 7 as well. I think it's going to be a 7-gamer because they match up well everywhere except goaltending, and that will be the ultimate factor in my opinion. Heck, if it ends sooner, it's going to be, like we said, if it's going to be a short series for Edmonton, it's probably Edmonton. If it's a short series, it's probably going to be Dallas in my opinion because of the goaltending factor.
Yeah, and also Dallas has home ice, right? So yeah. Colorado, yes, they are a great home team because of the altitude, right? Dallas, mitigates that by having home ice, by winning the division. And then last point here, Jake Onger is a better goalie than Connor Hellebuyck. They are facing a superior goalie in the sense that Connor Hellebuyck is a no-show in the playoffs. Jake Onger has proven that he could be that guy in the playoffs. Obviously,
fair.
Obviously, 2 years ago, being that guy when Calgary was the 1 seed and Dallas was the 8 seed, and he took Calgary to 7 games, almost single-handedly, and having that 60-game performance, 60-save performance in that game 7. Jake Onger is the superior goalie when it comes to playoffs, and again, it's a mismatch there in goaltending, but Colorado finds a way. If Gorgiev does what Kemper does, Colorado should be fine. But I am sticking with my preseason prediction in Dallas. But let's move on
before we move on.
Yeah.
Sticking in the Western Conference, but moving on to a different topic. We mentioned Winnipeg. We might as well transition to that move right now. They are officially on the clock to find a new head coach as well.
Oh, yeah.
No, Rick Bowness did not retire. Did not get fired. He retired.
Well,
They're both
you
wrong.
fumbled that.
I fumbled that.
You fumbled that.
Rick Bowness is retiring. He said it essentially after Game 5 that this is the time to retire. He has been in the NHL for 38 years. And he's a Jack Adams finalist. Obviously, I don't think he's going to end up winning it. So, great career for Rick Bowness. It is confirmed by Winnipeg Jets, but first there was reports. So, here's the thing. Instantly, when I thought that someone who was going to be available, I'm like, oh, Craig Berube, this makes a lot of sense.
Craig Berube.
No. This one just made a lot of sense because it's like a smaller market, but a Canadian market at the end of the day. But I completely forgot that they had an assistant coach when Rick Bowness was out that also helped them to start off very strong as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what his name is, but yeah. So with that being said, though, with Rick Bowness, legendary career. If those of you guys don't know, nickname Bones. Head coach of the Boston Bruins, Ottawa Senators, New York Islanders, Arizona Coyotes, and Dallas Stars. He also went to the Stanley Cup final as an assistant coach for your Vancouver Canucks, unfortunately not winning it. And he was in 2015 as an associate coach with the Lightning, again, ultimately not winning it as well. He also, the reason why I have a feeling this is just speculation. I think a big factor is outside of the 38 years, he obviously had to attend to his wife who was dealing with something. So that probably was a factor. Like, okay, time for me to chill, hang out with the family, and take care of my wife, stuff like that as well.
Yeah, congrats to Rick Bowness on an absolute incredible career, and hope retirement serves you well. And yeah, that's much. Congrats on an incredible year.
Other coaching news very quickly before we head over to the Eastern Conference. This is an Eastern Conference team. It looks like last year's interim head coach for the New Jersey Devils and former Vancouver Canucks head coach Travis Green is very close to being hired by the Ottawa Senators. Little bit surprised because obviously we could talk about Travis Green a little bit by saying like what type of coach he was. He's obviously a coach that preaches accountability, has the players back as well, and you know you want him to play hard for him. He's a good developmental coach. He's not a good coach to put someone over the top, as we saw with the Canucks, what he did with Quinn Hughes and Pettersson. But after that, it wasn't that great.
So here's the thing, right? Based on that, I think it's a good hire in the sense that, you know, this Ottawa team still needs a little bit. You know, he's good with the young boys, right? He's shown that, you know, he could take you know Brady Tkachuk's game to another level. He could take all these guys, you know, game to another level on the Ottawa Senators. So yes, will he be able to win with them? Probably not. But I'm saying that Ottawa Senators will be a better team than they were this year because Travis Green is a great coach and he knows how to get the best out of his young talent, right? And this clear example of the Vancouver Canucks and what he did in the bubble was absolutely incredible because he got the best out of Petey, Hughes, and all these young guys that he had on the Canucks. Obviously, in the difference here is that, you know, the Canucks didn't give him much to work with, right? After that bubble, especially. He has something to work with at Ottawa. Ottawa has a good roster. They just weren't playing well. They weren't clicking. And I think Travis Green will be able to make them click. Then again, I predicted a lot of things for Ottawa that went wrong. So
yeah, no, the best person to probably ask is our boy Alex Adams as well.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the players are more developed than Petey and Hughes were already. So maybe he could put him over the top this year, but the question is long term. But for immediate, I'm fine with the hire. I saw Locked On Senators or a different Senators Twitter page that was saying like, we need accountability. We need someone that's going to work hard. Someone said that be ready for day one of training camp because you're going to have a laugh because of his bag skate stuff. And, you know, the classic picture of, I forgot, was it Jake Virtanen or someone like just lying on the ice?
Was it Ekman Larson?
I think it was Ekman Larson as well. But
Yeah.
like Jake Virtanen especially because who has been there and experienced it. But yeah, no, we'll see. Best of luck to Travis Green. Let's see how it ends up going.
All right, Eastern Conference predictions starting off with, I mean, both games already happened in game one, so we're cheating a little bit. But let's start off with Florida and Boston. And yeah, Boston's coming off that incredible Game 7 win. Boston is coming for vengeance, right, from what happened last year. And on paper, Boston are technically a worse team for what they were last year, but that has not affected them at all this year. And they just find a way to keep winning. And that is because of the main man and my new MVP of the playoffs so far, Jeremy Swayman. He's been on an absolute tear. He was absolutely incredible in Game 1 again against the Florida Panthers, absolutely destroying them 5-1. And there was a stretch in the third period where the Florida Panthers should have came back. I think they were down 3-1 after 2. And that first 10 minutes was all Florida. I think it was 11-1 shots in the period. And Swayman kept it afloat up until, I don't know who got the goal, the fourth goal, but because I was also paying attention to the next game as well, because that game was fire. And just held it down for Boston. Like, he's been holding it down all playoffs long. And he's been holding down that number one goaltending spot for the Bruins and making sure that that little tactic of alternating goalies is not going to be in effect, because you can't take out Jeremy Swayman the way he has been playing. And he has shown against what is supposed to be a high-powered offense in Toronto that he could shut him down. And now he's shown that again in Game 1 against the Florida Panthers. And Boston overall, their PK has been incredible, right? They are aggressive. They are how they are, They just find a way to get it done. They're aggressive. Marchand, it fits the Marchand's play style. Pasternak, got that game winner. Hopefully he gets a little bit rejuvenated off that from Game 7, because he wasn't great in round 1. But overall, just Boston teams, their identity. They're physical, and they will get the job done, right? That's what every player is going to have. Yes, they may not have the star power at center, but they have an identity.
Before I talk about the Florida Panthers, just finish the Game 1 recap quickly. How much was it rest versus rust?
I don't know. I saw the stats where, a team coming off a Game 7 overtime usually wins the Game 1 in the next round.
Fresh. Especially against a team that's like...
Well, they're not fresh, but, they're not rusty.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
They're not fresh, though.
But the other guys are, I guess it's rusty.
And also, Florida hasn't played in a week.
That's what I'm saying, right?
Right, it was a 4-day rest. It was a full 7 days, essentially, for the Florida Panthers. So that's definitely a big factor. If it was a 3-4 day rest, it could have been different. But it's not like Florida was they weren't really outplayed, right? It was tight in the first 2 periods. It's just that the end of the second period just got away from that. And they put themselves in a little bit of a hole, don't get me wrong. But they should be bouncing back. And last year, I do believe they lost Game 1 when they were leading 1-0, I think.
So, Florida, like I said, before we get into the predictions, obviously one game is out of the way. That did not help me. That's not going to help make me change my prediction anyways. But Florida, like I said, they're coming off that rest. Hopefully it's just rust for Game 1. After that, listen, I still think they're the better team overall. The center depth is the key part in that. Forward-wise, they're big. They're strong. Kachuk came out in the first round series as well, playing better than he did in the regular season. On top of that, you still have Sam Reinhart. You still have the clutch guy in Carter Verhaeghe, right? In the overtime, whenever needed, he's the one who will finish it. You still have Bobrovsky, right? As good as Swayman has been, Bobrovsky was your former MVP of the playoffs before he switched to Swayman, so he's still there. Defensively, you still have everybody, Ekblad, Montour, Forsling, right? They're all there as well. So I just think it's a blip. I still think they're the better team, right? So that being said, we're not going to spend too much time on it because the series is already underway, so we kind of gauged off what happened in Game 1 as well.
I'm sticking with my bracket, right? You had a perfect bracket so far. I'm stuck with the Canucks, stuck with the Dallas Stars. And in that bracket, I did pick the Florida Panthers.
Yeah, I'm going Florida Panthers in 6. I was debating between 5 and 6. Obviously, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt in that sense that they got the first win. So, yeah, I have the Florida Panthers in 6. I just still think they're the better team. They'll figure it a way out. They came back from 3-1 down with a lot worse last year, and that team is now, Boston is much worse than last year.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going Panthers in 6. They should be able to bounce back. Obviously, now they got a game under their belt now, so they should be better in Game 2. They should be able to play the full 60 minutes. They weren't bad. They genuinely weren't that bad. Is that Swayman? It was elements of Swayman stealing the game and elements of just Boston being, not rusty type of thing, and they were just able to dominate the whole 60 minutes at spurts as well. But both teams did look great in the first period. Both teams did look good in the second period. It's just that Boston had the better moments, and it was a couple of snipers. The first 2 goals that they had were good top shelf finishers, and I think Bobrovsky needs to be a little bit better in that sense as well. But overall, I'm rocking with Florida, and Florida in 6. Again, Kachuk. Again, the star power favors Florida. Goaltending is even, and defensively, it's pretty even as well. But when it comes to forwards, I favor the Panthers.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the other juggernaut of a series we're going to have. The Carolina Panthers taking on the New York Rangers. Again, game 1 already started or finished up with that. Game 2 will be today. So it's 1-0 Rangers at the moment. You know, they're home, so it's not as unexpected as well. The game for that, the story of that game was Mika Zibanejad just went off. Could have had a hat trick. I don't know why he did a back pass
Yeah.
on that one, but yeah, no. Overall, kind of, there's no excuse. Both of them, or you can't say rust in this one because literally both guys were with like what 2 games apart from each other.
Yeah,
2 days
4-0,
apart.
4-1. They're both, in the same boat of like, they got their series done pretty early and got the rest in. And this game, I believe Freddie Anderson will definitely want to have a few goals back here, a couple goals back for sure. And it wasn't the same Freddie Anderson in round 1. And I do believe Freddie Anderson will bounce back. The Canes are able to match up against him. But the big key in the game 1 was New York's power play was able to cook, right?
Yeah.
And Carolina took penalties, and they got paid for it. They paid for it because amazing power play goals by Zibanejad, and especially I think it was the first one, I believe, or I don't know which one it was, but like the double back hand pass, right?
Yeah.
From the middle of the ice to Kreider back to Zibanejad. And another thing was overall, Rangers were like it was Rangers' game to lose, right? Rangers were the better team, but ultimately Carolina with a flatter performance was able to keep it that close. It's gonna be a tight series. It's gonna be a good series, and
So wait, before you go on, to bounce off your penalty kill power play point, Carolina went over 5.
yeah,
So it's not even just like their penalty kill was bad. They allowed both goals that they were on the power play, or they gave up a penalty for. They couldn't convert on the power play themselves.
yeah, and then also when I was gonna move on to the Carolina side, it was gonna be that 2 years ago these guys faced off in a 7-game series, but 2 years ago there was no Jake Ensel. That was point number. That's
And
the main
Evgeny
point.
Kuznetsov too.
And Evgeny Kuznetsov, but that's not like
As big. But
that's
like,
not a
still,
Jake
the
Ensel
leadership
factor.
factor is still there.
But just saying that, they added support the Hurricanes after Aho to get that goal scoring, right? And last year obviously they did not face each other in the playoffs, but Svechnikov is a big help to that as well. You still have Marty Natchez, you have Seth Jarvis, who I believe was their leading goal scorer this year.
Yeah.
And overall, obviously, we already know their defense. Freddie Anderson will bounce back. My original pick from the beginning of the year was Carolina going to the finals.
And that was before Jake Ensel.
That was before Jake Ensel. So I am confident that the Carolina Hurricanes will get their revenge from 2 years ago when they got absolutely destroyed in Game 7, I believe 6-2. And they were the home team then. This time Rangers are the home team. So a little bit of deja vu potentially. And then that little trend that I like to follow, right, off ice. And the stupid little things I like. I'm going to rock with Carolina in 7. And I'm going to rock with my original prediction. And my bracket said Carolina as well.
Okay, so the funny thing is, except for the Canucks series, we're the same in everything. Because I'm going also everything you said. I'm not gonna like repeat it. I'm going Carolina with 7 as well. I just think they will bounce back. It was bound to be a tough series anyways from the get-go, so it's not surprising they lost game 1. But like you said, though, it was still 4-3 at the end of the day, and that was not a great performance by them. And special teams,
Like they could play better.
the special teams will be better in my opinion. So ultimately, that's what I'm gonna lean with as well. Carolina in 7.
It was a very even game still.
Yeah.
Both teams could have played better. But overall ranking wise of the series matchups,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Which one's the most sweepable? Is it the Canucks? Because technically Boston already won a game.
Yeah.
Between the two.
Yeah, it's probably the Canucks. Yes, it's definitely probably
But how would you rank
Canucks one.
each 4 without the bias of watching the Canucks? Because that's what we're going to be prioritizing of watchability.
well, it's obvious because that's the one we talked about the most as well
Yeah.
of how much we're gonna watch it.
If we were a neutral,
But if I was a neutral, in my personal opinion, I am going with just because what I've seen Dallas do. I'm gonna give him the edge of Dallas, Colorado over Carolina, New York.
yeah,
Just because we know Dallas could go toe to toe. We just gotta see if Colorado could match that as well, which I believe they can because they absolutely destroyed Winnipeg. So for that reason, I'm going Dallas, Colorado 1, Carolina, and New York Rangers number 2. like I said, they both could be Stanley Cup finals if they're on the opposite sides.
Yeah.
Right. They that's how good of a matchup they are. Number 3, I'm going with the Canucks and Oilers. Right. Canadian matchup. Obviously, there's gonna be a lot of eyes on this one, and again, I mean everything is division rivalry technically, but this one is gonna be like it's gonna be chippy. It's gonna be physical, and it also has Connor McDavid in the series, so that's also another reason. And number 4, I'm going with Florida Boston, and I'm not saying it's a clear, right. I could even argue Florida Boston being 3, Canucks Oilers being 4, but I feel like Florida has the ability to dominate more than the Oilers do than the Canucks. I feel like the Canucks match up better than I believe Boston can, even though Boston absolutely destroyed game 1.
I agree with your list too. That's my list as well. But I could even argue the Canucks Oilers could jump up to 2. I don't think nothing touches
nothing
1.
touches 1 and 2.
No, for me, nothing touches 1. But I'm just saying because the style of play and watchability a factor, the rivalry aspect, especially with the Canucks Oilers, is bigger than Rangers Canes, so that the feistiness could be more. And then, like I said, it didn't live up to the Battle of Alberta from a couple of years ago, so that's why I have them down at 3. But like this one, like I won't be surprised if it does jump into 2 by the end of the series.
There's here's the thing: it's a 1 and 2, then there's a gap, then there's 3 and 4, right? Nothing touches, in my opinion, Dallas, Colorado,
we'll see. Like at the end,
and New York, Carolina, and obviously it's
like,
shown in Game 1 that New York, Carolina is gonna
I get that, but
series.
again, we haven't seen Game 1 of that yet. But I won't be surprised if Vancouver and Edmonton end up being like even the best, but for sure at least second. Just the style of play, the feistiness, and all that. At the end of the day, everything will be in hindsight after. We'll judge it based on that.
But that is our round 2 predictions of the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Comment down below your predictions as well. Comment down below if anything you would like. Comment down below if you had a perfect bracket like me as well. Throwing a little flex. But overall, comment down below if you like the NBA or NHL playoffs so far better. This is a little bit of a competition. Personally, me in the last few years, NHL has taken this for me, but obviously you might disagree in some sense. But right now, I feel like it's been pretty even. But this round 2 will definitely determine it because round 1, you had the Knicks Sixers series being the series at playoffs. For the NHL side, it was Dallas and Vegas. But round 2 will be the ones that show off. Obviously, being the Timberwolves, Nuggets.
Well, right now the Nuggets ain't
not right now.
Good, so.
But the round 2 matchups look nice. And they look a little bit even as well.
Let's just say this much: the Nuggets have to pull off a Dallas Stars. That's what it's gonna look like.
But yeah, so comment that down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out all the socials. Check out our YouTube shorts as well. Audio listeners, love you guys. Don't think we forget about you guys. We appreciate you guys downloading and rating the podcast down below. And wait, I'm doing the outro. What the?
Yeah,
I just realized that.
I was letting you cook there for a second, but no, make audio listeners. Make sure you guys rate, review, download the podcast down below. Follow our socials linked down below as well. Check out Twitter for any updates. Once again, road to 1,000 continues. So make sure you guys subscribe, hit the hit the notification bell sign for any new videos coming out or YouTube shorts coming out. And other than that, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Peace.